Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Truth. I'm your host, one you love the most, Niall Hesson, back with a brand new episode here on The Truth. Back once again with my brother Lucas. Lucas, how are you doing here today?
Good, good. Tough intramural loss last night, but it's all right.
Hey, bounce back. What was the score again?
I think it was 76-69. We only had five guys too, so I was shocked that it was close. But
Ha-
I got intramural pool tonight, so hopefully I can bring home a championship.
Bro, what? Do you have intramural pool?
Yep,
What is that?
it's just like billiards.
Oh, for some reason I was thinking like an actual swimming pool. I was like,
No,
that's gonna be, is it solo or is it team?
it's solo today.
Nice. I was gonna say you got something going on in the background there too, don't you? What is that? This is the live podcasting 101 right here. Lucas in his dorm room, just, trying to get it done. But, anyways, guys, what were you going to say?
TV turned. It was like the TV turned on.
Oh, nice. Well, that's what Luke's doing. But, anyways, guys, today we are back with another episode. Today we're going to be working on catchers. We're going to give you guys our 6 total sleepers, 3 from each of us that we are going to be anticipating will be a sleeper in this upcoming fantasy baseball season. So, without further ado, Lucas, go ahead and give me your first catcher sleeper.
Yeah, first guy for me is Joey Bart. Many people probably, well, not many, but some people might not know he's in Pittsburgh now. But a lot of people seem to forget that he was the number 2 overall pick in 2018. He's hitting in the middle of a Pittsburgh lineup that I think is going to be pretty good with guys like O'Neill Cruz and Brian Reynolds. He had decent numbers last year after I believe he was traded. I'm not totally sure how he got to Pittsburgh, but hit 265, 13 home runs, 45 RBIs, and 800 OPS, 253 at bats. And in his career, he's hitting under 700 in terms of OPS, but still, I think decent numbers for a catcher, and I really like him. Again, first round pick for a reason. Hoping this change of scenery does him well because 4 seasons in San Francisco, he was not really good. His career high before last year in terms of home runs was 11 and 25 RBIs. Big concern with him is strikeout to walk ratio. 2022, in terms of most at bats, he had his 261. 112 strikeouts to 26 walks. That's something you do not like to see, especially now at the catcher position. But until Andy Rodriguez comes for Pittsburgh, I think Joey Bart is going to be a solid catching option. And in terms of fantasy, he's only ranked mid 20s, even to 30. So, like, he's at the end, bottom of the barrel in terms of selection. But I think he's someone who has a lot of upside this year.
Yeah, Joey Bart is one of those guys that I also was thinking could potentially be the sleeper this year. As you mentioned, like a change of scenery now in Pittsburgh. Don't get mistaken for the Henry Davis catcher there in Pittsburgh as well. Before, obviously, but Joey Bart, I think his success in San Francisco was kind of split into two parts. One, he was able to have some type of success early on, but then he was really kind of had some periods of time where he struggled, and then had one good season. But last year was his best season so far in his career, and I wonder if that change of scenery and that change of pace really did it for him. Anyways, my first catcher is going to be Will Smith. Now, Will Smith, I've always liked. I think one of the main reasons why I like him is because he is in that Dodgers lineup. He's going up with other guys in that lineup like Freddie Freeman, Shohei, Mookie Betts. Like, there's so many run opportunities and even just RBI opportunities to begin with. So that's one of the main reasons why I like Will Smith. I think, overall, Will Smith is pretty highly regarded. He's the sixth best catcher, but I think there's a couple guys like Cal Rahe and Yanir Diaz that I would consider putting over him. It's kind of hard to believe that Will Smith has dropped down that low. Every year it seems like he's consistently getting 20 home runs, 75 plus RBIs, and batting consistently to 50 to 280 at times. So I think when you look at a guy that's consistent, I think Will Smith is one of those guys. He does play in 120, 130 games, so you're going to get good production from him. It's always hard to find a good solidified catcher just because it seems like at times guys are taking days off or whatever the case is. But Will Smith is going to be in that lineup. He's going to be producing runs and overall value for your fantasy teams, especially for his ADP and where he's at. I think this is an absolute steal. And I definitely think this is one of those guys that can develop into a really big star that he already has sort of in the league. What about your second guy?
Second guy for me is Ryan Jeffers, of course, Twins catcher. Number one guy after Christian Vasquez decided to be terrible. But he had pretty good numbers last year. I mean, 412 at bats, 21 home runs, 64 RBIs, 732 OPS. I remember in April when he was looking like he was going to be the MVP. I mean, he hit 338, 424 on base, 636 slug, 1060 OPS, 5 homers, 18 RBIs, 8 doubles. Like, he was tearing the cover off the ball. The concern is did not have a month like that at all. He had 26 hits that month. Then he had 18, 9, 13, 15, 12. And because of that, I think he's really fallen down draft boards. And this is in the Twins lineup that's going to be amazing. He's going to win the World Series, win the AL Central. And I don't know. It's something about Jeffers. I think he just really had a tough end to the season. Obviously, considering he only hit 226. He's a career 230 hitter. He has 60 home runs, 180 RBIs, 737 OPS. So those are good numbers from the catcher position, and he's still relatively young at 27 years old. And his ADP is looking about 18 to 22 in terms of the catcher range. I think he's significantly better than that when you look at catchers out there. And even if you want to have him as a DH position or someone who's just an extra bat, maybe even a utility or something like that, he has had pretty good numbers. I think he's going to have a really good year this year. And even worst case, he gives you 20 home runs, 64 RBI, 732 OPS. You take that as a fantasy owner, or at least I would, from the backup catcher position.
Yeah, for me, my second guy is going to be Jonah Heim. I've always liked Jonah Heim. I think a lot of people have been kind of avoiding him just because he's kind of had a little bit of a downfall, especially as of late. Like last season, compared to the year before, played 131 games in both seasons, but 18 home runs and 95 RBIs to 13 and 59. The average also dropped from 258 to 220. But I feel like these numbers overall not a dictation of where his career is. I think some people have said that he's already reached his peak. He is 29, so he's getting up there a little bit in age. But again, this is a Texas Ranger lineup that found a way to get it done a couple years ago to win a World Series. A lot of the guys are still kind of there. So it is a run producing offense, not to the level of the Dodgers, but I think that's a big thing. On top of that, he also just like dropped kind of rapidly as far as his production is concerned. And those are guys that you like to scoop up because those are guys that are not necessarily going to do that again. Usually when you see a big drop off there, and even if there was a guy that made a big kind of upcoming, you would want to kind of avoid those guys just because you never know what you're going to get. And it was kind of a fluky season. But when it's reversed like this situation here, this is a prime opportunity for him to be scooped up and have success. Again, he is currently ranked as the 23rd best catcher right now, which I think is absolutely insane, especially with a lot of these guys on here. I know that he hasn't had the last season that people were expecting him to do, but 23rd overall catcher, I think that's ridiculous. I don't think that, I would draft him in the top 10 or probably even top 15, but 16, 17, man, even 6, 7 spots up there, I would be happy for a guy like Jonah Heim because I think he's poised for a bounce back season. He's shown what he can do at the peak of his career, and I still think there's some opportunity for him to grow and to develop, especially in that Rangers lineup. So I'm still high on Jonah Heim. I know some people aren't, but I think especially for where he's at and how late you can get him in drafts, it could definitely be a key to unlocking some potential and success, especially for a position that's kind of hard to come by, right? You got other positions like where guys are, like the Willie Castros of the world, they play like first, second, third outfield. Like they have so many. Catcher seems to be distinctly catcher, sometimes outfield or even DH. And I think getting a guy like Heim later in drafts can help you focus on other positions. What about your final guy?
Last guy for me is Gabriel Moreno in Arizona. His numbers don't pop out to you, at least at first glance. Only 5 home runs, 45 RBIs. Hit 18 doubles is nice, 266 average. But the number that really sticks out to me is his on base percentage. I know not many fantasy leagues count that as a stat, but just the way that outlines his play discipline. I mean, 41 walks to only 52 strikeouts. And again, that was only in 97 games last year. He was a little injured. Came over in the Lourdes Gurriel, Dalton Varsho trade in 2023, I believe, before that season. He had 111 games in 2023 and similar kind of numbers, 50 RBIs. Walks and the strikeouts were a little different, but I think his game is kind of shifting a little bit. So when you have a 733 OPS, similar to Ryan Jeffers, that's a number I really like to see from the catcher position. And even if it's not necessarily home run driven, I would rather have someone, at least from the catcher spot, that's getting hits, that's getting extra base hits, not necessarily just home runs or strikeouts. And Moreno is someone who really limits the strikeouts, and at a young age, only 25 years old. I'm really excited about him, and some projection systems are ESPN has him as a number 10 overall catcher, whereas a lot of other ones have him 16 to 18 range. Similar to Ryan Jeffers, I think this is a really good selection. Maybe not for a number one catcher like he's no William Contreras or something like that, but I think he's a really good guy to look at, especially considering his age and his productivity. If he can limit the injuries, he'll be a really good bat in the Diamondbacks lineup.
For me, my final guy, he kind of was touched on a little bit when we were talking about Joey Bart just from coming over from San Francisco, and it's going to be Patrick Bailey. Again, I look for, the catcher position as one where it is very limited as far as like overall production from some of these guys. And I think Patrick Bailey could be one of those guys that takes that next step and is able to kind of move forward here for that San Francisco Giants team. Obviously, kind of got handed the reins with Joey Bart leaving last season, very similar to the year before. The only thing that was different was the fact that he played in about 25 more games, literally quite the exact same stats: 7 to 48 home runs, RBIs last year, 8 to 46. And then he also had a 233 average the first season, 234 last season. So very similar there. The numbers are very similar. And I think this is the year that he can take a step up. I know San Francisco's offense isn't like not necessarily the top premier offense. It's got some young guys, some veteran guys, kind of just an overall good balance there. But I think Patrick Bailey is one of those guys that could step into a role very nicely and have success and kind of jump off people's boards. And as I mentioned earlier with Patrick Bailey, he's one of those guys that is currently right behind Jonah Heim at the 24th best catcher. I think a lot of people are hesitant just because he is 25, but there's a lot of life left in those legs. And I think San Francisco has made it clear that he's going to be their catcher for sure for this year and hopefully for years down the line. I think this is a big year for him in that aspect, but I think also to gain the fantasy manager's trust back. I think a lot of people are considering drafting him as a backup catcher, and I would probably say that's a more fitting position just to kind of see what you can hold on to and see with him. I don't think he's the same as Jonah Heim, where he's proven what Jonah Heim can do. Jonah Heim has proven that. Patrick Bailey hasn't yet, but he definitely is a guy that can jump off the page like Jonah Heim did back in like 2020 or 19, whenever it was, when he made that jump and became one of the better catchers in the league. So again, there is risk associated with Patrick Bailey, but I look at just a couple names here, like Bo Naylor, Ivan Herrera, just a couple that are just right above him that I would much rather have Patrick Bailey than those guys. So again, it's one of those positions. It's kind of a fluctuating position because you don't know what you're necessarily going to get, but I think the potential is through the roof, which could be huge for the San Francisco Giants this season. Thank you guys for listening to another episode here on The Truth. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you follow The Truth on Twitter, The Truth as one, to stay up to date with the latest information regarding The Truth, including podcast dates, podcast uploads, and other important information you don't want to miss. Make sure you guys also follow The Truth on Instagram and TikTok at the.tt.truth. I look to find a drink that offers peak hydration, raises your energy levels, speeds up your recovery, and keeps your mind sharply focused and memory. Look no further than Acid Rainwater. I'm excited to partner with Blendline Sports AZ and Acid Rainwater, which focuses on peak hydration and productivity, while also maintaining an ecosystem-friendly product. Use code HESSON15, that's HESSON 15 for 15% off every purchase. As always, I'm your host, the one you love the most, Niall Hesson, joined once again by my brother. Take care and good night.